Well, obviously the NCES practice exam that was out at the time, but it was mostly book. And I think at the time you had just released your on demand, and I signed up, and all I did on it was maybe like the math section. I shouldn't say I studied less. My average studying time during the week was less, but I took more practice exams. I kept my study material with me and my personal laptop with me, and whenever I had slow time at work, waiting for my crew to get something done or whatever, I knew it was going to take them a couple of hours and they didn't need me, I would bring it out and study. The grueling experience that it was to get the FE and the PE gave me a new appreciation for everyone who has it. Hey, Wasim. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
So Sam, congratulations on passing your FE electrical and P power exams back to back in a matter of, I believe, 8 months, correct? Or less than that?
A little bit less. You're close, yeah. It was like seven and change. Yeah.
Seven and change. The interesting thing about your preparation, Sam, is that it took you less time to prepare for the P power exam as compared to the FE electrical, correct?
Yep.
Which is very unique because the PE power exam, according to most of the students, according to my own experience, is more difficult than the FE electrical exam. So I'd like to sort of unwrap your preparation, how you went about your FE electrical and PE power exam preparation. So the first time you enrolled in my course, it was 5 years ago, correct?
Yeah, 2018 probably.
I think it was 2018. And you didn't complete the course. Seems like it was not the most important priority at that time for you. And, because of life, personal, professional reasons, you were never able to really commit to it, correct? So, how about you walk me through
Wait, no, I actually remember how
2018
it was
onwards?
actually it was actually 2019 and almost into 2020 because I was waiting for my firstborn and I was trying to knock out the test before my first baby was born because I felt like I wasn't gonna have time after that. I studied using your book, the previous version, not the one that you have out now. I looked a little bit at the Lindbergh. I looked a little bit at, well, obviously the NCES practice exam that was out at the time, but it was mostly book. And I think at the time you had just released your on demand, and I signed up, and all I did on it was maybe like the math section. And then I just went and took the exam. I thought that was going to be enough. It was very haphazardly, put together. I didn't really devote 100% of my attention to it. Not that I could either. I mean, I did have a pregnant wife and I was relatively new in my job at the time, but I didn't put my heart and soul into it. So, and it showed. The first half of the exam, I mean, it kicked my butt. I felt destroyed, and I still had another, 2.5 hours or whatever to go back in there and get destroyed a little bit more. So I definitely felt like I did very poorly. So I wasn't surprised when I got the result. I think the difference between that and this second attempt was I realized, you know, even though my study efforts were haphazard that time around, it did take up a lot of time on the weekends and after work and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I don't want to do it. I don't have to do that again. So if I'm gonna do it this time, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do and just go all in to get it done and not have to ever worry about this again. And I'm a structure I'm a structure guy. I like to have structure. Back then it was just the books and it was all right, let me do this, and I look at the back of the book and I would email you a ton and you would, write me right back and sometimes give me your more complex solutions that you had on PDF, and that's all I did back then. Whereas this time I found out about your on demand, and jumped on there and the live training, and the live training was good in that it dove deeper into the topics that we saw on the on demand. People had questions. A lot of times those questions kind of echoed, what I was thinking. So that was a good uh, two pronged approach to tackle the exam preparation. And the structure, what really hit home for me, and what I tell people all the time, why I'm always recommending people to your program, is the structure, because there's just, you don't have to think as a busy professional with a family and personal life and all that stuff. Like the last thing I want to do is have to sit down and reinvent the wheel when there's someone who's already put together a professional and structured program that I can just follow, and the results speak for themselves. I watched, I think, every single video that you had on YouTube at the time of people who passed the exam, all from all different walks of life. People 20 years in the industry, 30 years in the industry, haven't graduated college, and everybody was doing it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be one more of those. So the structure of your program, how it just flows from each topic, and then how you reinforce each section of the on demand or several sections of the on demand with the live training, the more in depth look. And I felt like that was just the formula for me. And people ask me like, how did you do this or how did you do that? My answer, from what I can remember now, 'cause it's been a while, it's just, look, I didn't do anything of my own volition. I just followed the program. The program said that this week the live training was going to cover these four sections. I made sure I did those four sections and on demand, and then I did the live, and I just followed that. That was my program until I got done with everything. And as soon as I got done with everything, we spoke. We agreed I was going to take your exams, followed by the NCS in the middle. I think it was. I think I did for the FE. I did your first exam, then I did the NCS exam. No, I did your first exam, your second exam, and then I did the NCS exam, having never seen it before. And I took those test scores and I went on Reddit and I saw what people were getting on Reddit off of those exams and the NCS. And I said, well, that's ballpark what I'm getting. And they say they passed. So I went in and I passed.
Yeah. Congratulations. I think you are sugarcoating your efforts in the sense that you just simply follow the program. Simply following the program takes a ton of time and effort because I know folks have to put in 15, 20, sometimes even more than 20 hours of consistent effort on a weekly basis for several months in order to complete the content. And you never fell behind, or at least that's what it seemed to me, because every week not only were you keeping up with the content, but you were also asking high quality questions, insightful, deep, thought provoking, conceptual clarifications. And that told me that, you're staying on top of it. And I'm pretty sure it was taking you more than 20 hours of effort on a weekly basis. Do you remember in your FE electrical on average, how much time were you putting in, or were you not tracking it at all? Just what was your approach there?
I was. It was for the FE. It was probably close to 25 hours a week. I think average may
Yeah.
have been just
See,
under that,
so it was
maybe
definitely
20,
more than 20
22.
hours.
Yeah, it was more. It was always more than 20 hours. The average never dipped below 20 for the FE.
Right, right. And when you put in that type of effort, and you're using these resources and working through the content, actively engaging with the content, you're stacking the odds in your favor, and that's what happened. So after 5 years, roughly give or take, of attempting the FE for in 2019, 2018, you came back, made it a priority, and got it done. As far as I remember, for your P power, I don't remember you taking any break. Did you take even a couple of weeks off between your FE and P preparation?
No, I found out I passed the FE on Wednesday, and then I took that rest of that week off. I took Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday I started the PE again.
Yeah. And that was when did you start your preparation? That was in September?
Uh, I passed the FE in June, so I began the preparation for the PE in June as well, June 2023. And then I passed. I can tell you exactly right now. I started studying on Monday, June 26th, is when I started
Right.
studying for the
Monday,
for the
June
for the.
26th. And then you passed the exam, the P power exam when?
So just to recap, I passed the FE on the 17th of June. Okay, that's when I found out I passed anyway. And then I started studying for the PE on the 26th of June, and I passed it October 9th.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it took you less time in your FE prep in your P power preparation as compared to your FE electrical, correct?
Yes, and I studied less. I think my average dropped to probably 15 hours a week.
And you studied less as well,
I
right?
studied less.
I know you're a busy
Well,
guy. You are.
I shouldn't say I studied less. My average studying time during the week was less, but I took more practice exams. So for the FE, I only took your two exams and the NCES. For the PE, I took your two practice exams, the NCES, and I did two other brand actually that you recommended. I did those as well. So I totally did a total of five exams for the PE, which I mean, literally took me a week to do one because I would do the exam and then I would review and then do another exam and review. So that took weeks.
Right. Now, that's impressive. And to put things in perspective, even right now, you're working in the field, right? You're on site. And sometimes it is long hours because you never know how things are going to work out. It can be firefighting one day, it can be a little bit easier the other day. You can be on some high intensity projects, um, and troubleshooting and managing and reacting. It can be draining. Things don't always go according to plan. There's no, at least in my personal experience, there's not a typical day in the field because it can be very chaotic at times. How did you work through a very, and I know the content for the P power exam in my course is very intense. It is, we are exploring, understanding, comprehending very abstract concepts. And I intentionally take a very broad view of the topics, um, try and learn and teach them from first principles. So an exam that requires that level of effort and focus, how are you able to optimize your daily, weekly routine for multiple months in order to keep your energy level, focus level where it had to be in order to get this job done?
It's a good question. So I kept my study material with me and my personal laptop with me. And whenever I had slow time at work, waiting for my crew to get something done or whatever, I knew it was going to take them a couple of hours and they didn't need me, I would bring it out and study. Obviously, study on the weekends, so very limited social life during that time. My wife helped a ton there. You know, I tried to limit my time to studying when my son wasn't home, but that wasn't always possible. So something has to give. You just got to do it. So I just studied on the weekends and during his nap times and stuff like that. Um, and just stay on it. I mean, just got to stay on it. It's got to. What I tell my friends who wanted to do it, and a lot of them have done it now and are actually in the progress, or they're in the process of doing it. The PE now. I told them to just it's got to consume you. The only way to pass the FE and the PE, in my mind, is it has to consume you. It has to be everything you think about. It has to be the number one thing that you prioritize. If it becomes second or third, you'll end up with what happened to me in 2019. Um, that's my experiences. I know people that passed with 2 weeks of study, and good for them. I mean, I don't know how they did that. And I know people that passed in 8, 9 months, and 10 months, a year. So I know people that took it and failed, and never went back, like I was in 2018 or in 2019. So I just tell people, let it consume you. You turn yourself in and just understand that you're probably not going to have a life for a little while. Um, but you'll get this huge accomplishment under your belt eventually, and then you'll never have to do it again, and it'll be another notch on your belt in your professional life, something that you overcame. And it's honestly, I still think back now and I remember all the sacrifices and how it felt, just the grueling weeks after week after week. I mean, you said I didn't take a break. I effectively didn't really. It went from FE, where at the end I was exhausted of studying. I don't think I could have looked at another formula. Um, and then when I found out I passed, somehow I just reset and I purged most of that FE stuff and all the stress and anxiety that was there, and I just reset the disc and just kept going for the P. I don't know how I did that. I honestly don't, because I at the end of the FE I was really wore out. I couldn't do another week. I actually remember you even suggested to me, he's like, hey, your scores aren't great. They're not bad. You're almost there. I would push the exam a couple of weeks, and I just didn't have the bandwidth. I just couldn't. Like I could not do it anymore. So I said, I'm just gonna go and just do my best. So luckily I passed, and then I started with the PE right after. And 2 months into the PE, I was at the same point again, just exhausted because again the pace I did maybe was a little bit too much, but I really wanted to get it over with. And I was my work was getting busier and busier, and I could see the window closing for me to be able to study consistently. So I pushed and I pushed and I studied more and I studied more, hoping that it would be enough, and it was thanks to your program. It was enough.
So, what I observe, Sam, in your explanation is that you were very clear minded, right? You were not sort of going into the exam preparation mode with a wishy washy feeling that, yeah, getting a P license would be helpful. I can see how I will probably be qualifying for a promotion, maybe this year, maybe next year. I can potentially set up my own business down the road, and I will be able to get different types of job positions, openings that I can target. That is all, I would say, still fairly concrete way of thinking, but not as laser focused as I can sense in your explanation. That you consistently made sure that it was the most or one of the most important things that was going on in your life during that extended time period. And I think in some ways, correct me if I'm wrong, that having failed the FE exam 5 years ago, where you still put in the effort, I mean, you were studying off and on, you did go through study guides and sort of did the practice exams and you failed. You so that experience probably served as a deterrent to you that if you soften a bit, right? If you become a little bit complacent, you will fall back into that same trajectory, and that will end up where it ended up 5 years ago. So you made sure that you were on top of it throughout and never gave in, right? So in some ways, you learned really well from that failure. You internalized it and made sure that you did what you could within your capacity to avoid the same result from occurring again.
Yeah, 100%. You hit the nail on the head. That feeling that I had during the first half of the exam, not to mention the second because that was worse, but when it was my first time doing any sort of Pearson exam. So obviously I was, profoundly uninformed. I didn't know that I wasn't going to be able to use a pencil and I was going to get a marker. So all these different variables just day one because I didn't think about looking up how this was all going to go. So that was a part of it too. And then I get in there and the first 8 problems or so I couldn't even do. Right, so I'm skipping the first 8 problems, first 8 to 10 problems. I get to the end of the first half, and I think I must have flagged 20 plus, right? And or maybe close to 30 that I had to go back and review. And that feeling, you just, at least it happened to me. I was like, okay, so all those funds that I just put in were for nothing because obviously I'm not prepared, and I'm probably gonna have to do this again. And you get that gloomy, cloud over your head while you're still in the exam. You can't drink water. You really feel like you can't go to the bathroom. All these things are just piling up, and I had a huge headache when the test was done. So I remembered that feeling, and I said, whatever I need to do to not have that again is what I need to do. So whenever I was like, man, this is getting to be a lot, I was like, give me more. I need more. I need more. Like if I'm gonna suffer through it, I'm gonna suffer through it in my house or at work or under my conditions, not at the Pearson Center. So yeah, definitely
It's
it
like a
was
nightmare scenario, right?
yeah.
Yeah. It's like a nightmare scenario. I remember like some of the nightmares that I still have, to be honest. I've not been, I probably should see a therapist or something because I would say a few times every year, I have this weird nightmare that I'm going into an exam and I'm not prepared. I mean, I did pretty decent throughout my academic career in my undergraduate studies, high school, graduate studies and whatnot. But I think subconsciously, one of the biggest fears that I've ever had is me being underprepared for the exam. And living through that nightmare scenario, as you were describing, right? 8 questions right off the bat, have no handle on it. The first session was brutal, and the second was even much worse, right? So that sort of shakes you inside out, and that's what left you with the headache. But you learn from it, right? And what you've achieved, to be honest, Sam, in such a short period of time with the laser sharp focus and commitment and dedication is something that a lot of people out there are striving for, right? They want to replicate, they want to get both FE and PE done in one calendar year, which you achieved without stopping. But a lot of times the difference is the mindset, first of all, and then backing it up with consistent amount of effort and using effective exam preparation resources. And I think you checked all of those three boxes in style, and that's why you got the result that you got in such a compressed time period. So kudos to you for showing up every single day, working through it. And I'm pretty sure, as you mentioned a couple of times as well, you had the support of your spouse, and you had to say no to a lot of social commitments and friends and whatnot. And those type of things, if you have that understanding, if you have that cooperation, people around you are going to respect that. And if they know that you are not just lazing around and you're not wasting time, you're working towards something that is meaningful and worth achieving, it actually can be in so many different ways. I've had students, I've done these so many of these interviews, as you know, and you mentioned that you've pretty much watched every single one of these. I've had students who tell me that they aside, on top of everything else that happens in their career down the road after getting the P license, is that sense of inner satisfaction and self-respect that you gain, and the confidence that, okay, you know what, I was able to surmount this challenge. Now I can set my sight on something that I initially thought or previously thought was unattainable. All I need to do is rinse and repeat, right? The same attitude, same process. And you mentioned you have a son. So these type of achievements, when you accumulate, right, they get to see the discipline that you're putting in, right? You're working towards something. It's not just you're asking them, hey, I don't know how old your son is, by the way, but um, yesterday I saw mine. Mine is 4 years old, and he was in the park. He's a 4 year old kid, and he was doing push ups in the park, showing his friend how to do push ups. And I never actually told him that you should do push ups, right? He just watches me doing push ups and pull ups and chin ups. So he was trying to just impress his buddy by showing him how you do push ups, right? So kids pick up on these things, people around you do notice it. And as I say, actions speak louder than words. So again, wonderful achievement and congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, my son is also 4.5, and I have another one coming in this month actually. My second born should be born. Thank you, July 29th, hopefully. And yeah, I used to always like kind of like the PE, this and that. I wanted to put it next to my name and all that, but the grueling experience that it was to get the FE and the PE gave me a new appreciation for everyone who has it. Right, and people get it under different circumstances with different backgrounds and all that stuff. But when you see you're in the industry all day long and you see a PE, you're like, okay, well that guy or gal must have gone through something similar that to what I went through, and to purposefully not reach, not try to reach that goal, to just leave it there. I don't like leaving anything on the table that can make me better professionally. So that always bothered me that I hadn't done the PE yet. I was like, doesn't matter what kind of engineer you are. In my mind, if you're going to be the best, you got to get everything that you possibly can. And that's not to say you need to get a master's or a doctorate degree to be a good engineer. Experience trumps most things in the industry. But I think if you're a good engineer with a lot of experience and you put a PE on top of that, it can, it can set you apart. I think a PE makes a good engineer great, and there's a lot of people with PEs and not everyone's great, but I think if you're a good engineer and you really love what you do, you owe it to yourself to get that stamp and put that next to your name.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that line. P makes a good engineer great, because the counter is always that not every, like, people, again, it's also the thing, grapes are sour, right? People will find ways of saying that, hey, you know what, it's a tough exam, it's a tough undertaking. I've come across some P's who don't know what they're talking about. Maybe it's anecdotal, but I haven't come across a good engineer who becomes great in after getting the credentials. And if in the grand scheme of things, a lot of it is also how you position yourself, right? What opportunities come your way and which opportunities you pursue. So if you navigate your career, you can make great things happen in your career, both from a career satisfaction point of view, from a compensation standpoint, and in all different aspects. So once again, thanks a lot for your time, Sam. I know you are a busy person, and I'm confident that people who watch this interview, who watch this success story, this discussion, will be able to learn a few things that can hopefully have an impact on the exam preparation or in general their career approach. So once again, many thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks. And if you want to learn more about preparation of FE Electrical and Computer exam and the P Power exam, then check out these playlists over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next video.